Thank you. Good morning.
Morning.
Is anybody out there? Are you awake? Have you had your coffee? Congratulations. Congratulations, because in my view, we are officially at the end of the beginning. The end of the beginning of the FinTech revolution. And this revolution is really important. It really matters. Effective, fair, transparent financial systems sit at the heart of vibrant and successful economies, and they sit at the heart of stable and growing societies. We cannot have a world in which we have fairness, equality, peace, without a fair, effective and transparent financial system. And if the last 10 years has shown us anything, it's that the system that we have is anything but that. I saw that myself through 30-odd years of working for large banks around the world, and I see it today in my new role running a startup. Now, if you're out there in the startup world, congratulations to you. It's been a long, hard road, but if I look at every vertical, we're starting to see businesses gain real scale and traction. Peer-to-peer lending, payments, foreign exchange, DLT-based businesses, and so on. Red tech, compliance, legal. We are seeing traction in the startup, scale-up segment. If you work for an incumbent, how many people here work for a big bank? Don't be embarrassed. There's nothing to be ashamed of. I did it myself. I'm a recovering banker. If you're out there working in a big bank, you know how hard it is to push through change in organizations that are geared to resist change. Not because they're run by bad people, but because of the risk aversion that you see in very large organizations. And if you are here representing a regulator or a law firm or an accountant firm or a management consulting, congratulations to you too, because you've been part of this catalyst of change that we've seen. And I think you're exactly right. London leads the way in this regard. So there is a lot that we should feel really good about as we begin this important day today. 2 years ago, I gave a speech at Chatham House, and in that speech, I talked about approaching the Uber moments in financial services. And what I really meant there was the point at which technology creates transformation in an industry, just as Uber was doing in the road transportation industry. And in my view, we are starting to see some of those Uber moments come through. If I look at what's happened with mobile banking, for example, mobile banking, particularly in this country, has seen mass adoption and has seen consequently a reduction, a very significant reduction in branch traffic. If we think about contactless technology, we've seen mass adoption of contactless technology, which again has created reduction of cash coming out of ATMs. We're beginning to see those points of transformation. Now, in many ways, it doesn't really matter whether that transformation is coming out of large incumbents or fintechs or a combination of the two, because it's all good. It's all good for society. It's all good for the economy. But when I gave that speech about Uber moments, I also said that this was going to have an effect on the industry, and I expected that something like 50% of jobs would go out of the industry in the next decade, and that about 50% of branches would close. I think I've actually been wrong on the underestimation side of the branch closures. That's happening much faster because of these technology moments. And I also recently talked about Kodak moments. Now, many of you will be familiar with Kodak. The older people in the audience like me will remember when you went on your family holiday, you went and bought some Kodak film, and your choices were 24, 36, or if you were really flush, 48 exposures. You put that in your camera, you took the pictures, yes sir, you remember, you took the pictures, you came home, you took the film to the chemist, you realised that of the 24 pictures you took, half of them were rubbish, but you still had to pay for them to be developed. That was Kodak. Kodak dominated the world of film and film manufacture. They were really good at it. They actually also invented digital photography. But they could not get their minds around a world in which somebody would want to take thousands of pictures. It doesn't matter that 999 of them are rubbish, because you just delete them. Their mental model couldn't shift to a different world, even though technologically they understood how to do digital. They always thought digital was going to be a little niche activity. And the one thing that we've learned is when technologies reach a tipping point, they create transformation. And that's what I mean by a Kodak moment. The point at which parts of our financial system become obsolete because there is a much, much better way to do this. Now, what is driving this? And I've seen this from both sides. I've seen this in my time at Barclays, and I've seen this in my time running 10x Future Technologies. You'll be pleased to know this isn't going to be a 15-minute plug for 10x Future Technologies. It's not going to be there. But what I learned was, actually, the most important thing to understand is how the technology itself is changing. The things that are hyped in our world today are artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc., and distributed ledger technologies. Those are, if you do a keyword search or a cloud, that's what will come up. Now, those technologies are not possible without vast amounts of low-cost cloud computing technology. Even 3 years ago, it was not really possible to run those applications. And in 3 years' time, 6 years' time, 10 years' time, the capacity will increase again, the cost will fall. So the oxygen, if you like, of what's going to happen next exists in this very high quality, high capacity, low cost technology. So what does this all mean? How do we create this transformation in the next phase? What does it mean for incumbents? What does it mean for startups like my own? And I would like to give you 3 ideas to hold in your head as you go through today. Now, I called my business 10x Future Technologies for a reason. I called it that because I believe that our experience has shown that people only accept and adopt technologies when they make our lives significantly different and better. If you take out your phone, this is not an instruction, it's just an analogy. If you take out your phone and look at your screen, on your phone there will be 3, 4, 5 apps that you love. It may be City Mapper, it might be WhatsApp, it might be Waze, whatever it is, right? Whatever it is you love, because that makes your life better. That makes your life 10 times better than it would be without that app. And if we're going to create transformation in financial services, we have to think about how to create things that are 10 times better for users. That could be a consumer, that could be somebody who works in a financial institution, that could be a regulator. That's the mindset that we have to have. That's the critical challenge that we must exert on ourselves. And in my own business, 10x Future Technologies, what we're trying to do is create a new platform for banking services. A new platform through the massive automation of data that allows seamless customer experiences at very low cost for banks and others with total transparency. That's what we're doing at 10x. And we hold ourselves to that standard. We ask ourselves, is that really 10x? Because sometimes it's not. And in the day-to-day pressures of running the business I run or running a big bank, it's so tempting to cut the corners. But that won't work. That won't create the transformation that is possible in the future. That won't create the winners, whether you're an incumbent bank or whether you're a startup. The second thing is agility and speed. This, of course, is very obvious when you look at startups. But, of course, startups don't have, as I found, unlimited resource. They are making constant and dynamic trade-offs between what works today and what may work tomorrow. I had the CEO of a very large, well-known FinTech business come talk to my company yesterday. They don't even have a public API. So this notion of speed and agility, what we focus on, matters as much for a big bank as it does for a startup, as it does for a business that's going through scaling and growth. And to create agility and speed, you really need to have, one, clarity of purpose, two, streamlined organizations, and three, people who are willing to work in that way. And this is hard, particularly for incumbents, because when you're an incumbent in a big bank like I was, you are programmed not to fail, not to make mistakes. Whereas, of course, in this world, making mistakes is valuable learning. I mean, you don't want to do something cavalier and stupid. But if you put a product out there and it doesn't quite work, well, that is learning that you can turn into something else. So this notion of speed and agility becomes incredibly important. And the third thing is collaboration. Now, there's a lot of sort of, in our space, there's a lot of sort of fads. There's a lot of sort of idea du jour. And one of the ideas that's going around now is, 3 years ago, FinTech's going to change the world, challenge the big banks were dead. Now it's all about, well, actually, what we can do is we can collaborate. The FinTechs have got something, the big banks have got lots of money, they've got brand, reputation. We can put that together, and that will be a good thing. And of course, intellectually, that's correct, but it's hard to do. It's hard to do because it's like a mouse and an elephant dancing. It's very difficult. It can be done, and when it happens, it's a beautiful thing, if you've ever seen it. But in reality, it's hard. So when we think about collaboration, we have to think about it quite broadly. We have to think about it as an ecosystem. If you're a big bank, who do I need to partner with? Not just in terms of fintechs I might want to invest in or people I want in my accelerator, but who can I really bring into the fold? And how do I kind of lessen my sort of procurement requirements? Not so I do something that's risky, but how do I just become more flexible in dealing with a business that isn't going to be able to show you 10 years of audited accounts because it only existed for 3 years? Yeah, how do I help that business that I want to partner with work with me? If you're a fintech yourself, I think we in the fintech world have to be much more open to collaboration with each other, because there's no brilliance that exists universally across the landscape. If somebody else has got a better capability, integrate it into what you're doing. That's what we're doing in 10x. We have an open API policy. We can integrate lots of different capability, and we're talking to many of you about doing that. So if I think about where we are, I would say we are definitely at the end of the beginning. We are definitely entering the era of transformation. This transformation is incredibly important for our society, not just here in the UK, but globally. I believe we can see a totally different financial system, or one that probably operates at something like 20% of the cost it operates today, that provides products and services much more broadly and much more fairly and more transparently. But in order to do this, we need to think big, we need to work at speed, and we need to collaborate. I wish you all the very best today, and thank you very much indeed.